A missing girl, a rising superstar, and a body found in the trunk of his Tesla. This isn't a movie plot, it's the real story that has shaken the music world to its core. Imagine your favorite artist writing songs about death, blood, and bodies in car trunks, and then one day, police actually find a teenage girl dead inside his car. That's exactly what happened with David. She was just 15. He was one of music's fastest rising stars. Their worlds collided in a way no one expected, and it ended with a discovery so dark, fans may never hear his songs the same way again. It's one thing to watch an artist perform on stage, but seeing fans face to face, sharing emotions in real time, creates a bond that feels almost unreal. For David, that connection was once his greatest joy. But in 2025, his name became tied to something darker than anyone could have imagined. No one saw it coming. His girlfriend was suddenly declared dead, and within hours, the internet erupted with whispers that she'd been pregnant. The shock only deepened when the FBI revealed the truth. She hadn't been pregnant at all. That twist turned the entire story upside down. And at the center of it all, a body discovered in the trunk of a Tesla. The music world has always carried its share of scandals and mysteries, but few have rattled fans the way the discovery of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez did. Her body was found inside a car registered to one of music's fastest rising stars, David. What started as a missing person case in quiet suburban California had suddenly become a Hollywood tragedy. This story had everything: fame, accusations of grooming, conspiracy theories spreading like wildfire online, and one heartbreaking question: how did a teenage girl end up dead in the vehicle of a young celebrity? Who is David? David Anthony Burke, known simply as David, pronounced David, was born in Queens in 2005 and later grew up in Houston. Just 20 years old, he'd already carved a path from posting homemade soundtracks for Fortnite clips to signing a major deal with Interscope Records. His rise seemed like the perfect Gen Z fairy tale. In 2021, David was just another bedroom artist uploading lo-fi tracks to SoundCloud and YouTube, hoping someone would notice. Then TikTok came along. Suddenly, edits set to his haunting songs began spreading like wildfire. Tracks like Romantic Homicide and Here With Me became the background music to millions of viral clips. By 2022, Romantic Homicide alone had crossed the billion-stream mark on Spotify, an achievement that instantly positioned him as one of indie pop's most promising new voices. But anyone paying attention to the lyrics noticed something unusual. David's music was not built on bubblegum pop or light-hearted romances. It was darker, sharper, and often unsettling. He wrote about obsession, heartbreak, and even violence. In Romantic Homicide, he paired words about killing a lover with a video streaked in blood. Another song, One More Dance, included a music video where a limp body was dragged into the trunk of a car. These weren't just metaphors wrapped in poetic lines. They were bold, cinematic depictions of love intertwined with destruction. To his fans, this darkness felt authentic, even refreshing. In an age where so much music sounded polished and manufactured, David offered raw emotion, wrapped in lo-fi beats and melancholy melodies. His songs became the soundtrack to late-night scrolling, heartbreak playlists, and TikTok edits that leaned into themes of loss and longing. He seemed to capture a mood younger listeners couldn't put into words themselves. Yet, even as the fandom grew, some wondered whether the line between his art and his reality was a little too thin. That unease deepened in 2025 when David gave an interview while promoting his album Withered. In it, he admitted something that now feels chilling in hindsight. His music sometimes felt like it was foreshadowing his own life. He confessed that writing so many songs about death and doomed love created an eerie mirror he himself hoped would never come true. At the time, fans brushed it off. Many assumed he was simply being artistic, leaning into the tortured persona that made his music stand out. After all, countless musicians had built careers off dark or violent imagery without it ever crossing into real life. David was seen as no different, a young star creating his own mythos through the shadowy world of his songs. But that perception would change dramatically. In the wake of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death, people went back to his catalog with new eyes. Lyrics once dismissed as edgy began to look like confessions. The blood, the car trunks, the imagery of eternal bonds and broken hearts. Suddenly, it didn't feel like just performance anymore. His art was no longer just entertainment, it was evidence in the court of public opinion. And this is where the story takes on its cruelest twist. What made David so compelling as an artist, the raw vulnerability, the darkness, the sense that he was bearing pieces of his soul, also made it impossible to separate the person from the music when real tragedy struck. His rise to fame wasn't just about talent. It was about resonance. Millions of young listeners believed he understood them. But once whispers of grooming, obsession, and violence entered the narrative, those same qualities turned against him. The lines he had blurred between art and reality were now indistinguishable. By 2025, the young artist who once embodied a Gen Z dream had become a cautionary tale. His success showed the power of TikTok and online fandoms to catapult an unknown into stardom overnight. But his downfall showed something else, the danger of building a career on imagery that feels too close to the truth. For David, the darkness that made him famous may have also destroyed him. So when a decomposed body was found in his Tesla, fans instantly drew lines between his lyrics and reality. The art they once adored suddenly felt like a grim prophecy. Who was Celeste? Celeste Rivas Hernandez wasn't famous, but her death made her name inseparable from David's. Born in September 2010, she grew up in Lake Elsinore, California, about 70 miles southeast of Los Angeles. Teachers and neighbors described her as quiet, bookish, and hardworking. But beneath that image, life wasn't easy. Celeste had a troubled home and went missing multiple times. At just 13, she ran away for the first time in April 2024. Afterward, she drifted between her hometown and Los Angeles, where neighbors suspected she stayed with friends or boyfriends. By the summer of 2025, she had vanished again. Her family organized vigils, while online sleuths began linking her disappearance to a boy named David. It seemed like a rumor until police confirmed the connection. The timeline of tragedy. April 5, 2024, Celeste first reported missing at age 13. July 30, 2025, she was last seen engaging on David's social media. Investigators later believed she died around this date. August 27, 2025, neighbors reported a black Tesla parked in the Hollywood Hills for days. The car was registered to David. September 3, 2025, the Tesla received a parking ticket. David, meanwhile, was on tour performing in Chicago. September 5, 2025, the abandoned car was towed. September 8, 2025, tow workers noticed a horrible smell from the trunk. Inside was a severely decomposed female body. Dental records confirmed it was Celeste. She had just turned 15 the day before. Residents in the neighborhood recalled the odor for weeks, many assuming it was a dead animal nearby. What police found inside that trunk, however, was far worse. Celeste's remains, sealed inside a bag, described only as a head and torso due to the level of decomposition. Shockwaves online and off. The revelation that the car belonged to David instantly set off a media firestorm. Celeste's mother had told police she was seeing someone named David, and friends said she attended parties where others believed she was a 19-year-old college student, not a 15-year-old girl. Fans flooded social media with disbelief, anger, and theories. Could David really have been involved? Was this a crime reflected in his own music? Or was it a grim coincidence? For many, the parallels were too chilling to ignore. A song about killing a lover, a video with a body dragged to a trunk, and now a real-life body inside his car. Back in Lake Elsinore, her community mourned. On September 21, 2025, neighbors gathered for a candlelight vigil. "She deserves justice," one local resident, Ruby Alonso, said tearfully. Hashtags like #JusticeForCeleste trended worldwide as tributes, fan art, and emotional threads poured in online. Others condemned David outright, calling him a predator and demanding accountability. The pregnancy rumor. Amid the grief, another wave of speculation began, claims that Celeste had been pregnant at the time of her death. The story spread rapidly through screenshots, conspiracy theories, and misleading reports. But eventually, the FBI confirmed it was false, an internet myth that only added confusion and pain to an already devastating case. This wasn't just a missing person story anymore. It was a tragedy that blurred the lines between art, fame, and reality, and left behind haunting questions about how a young girl's life ended so violently, and why her story became forever tied to the music of David. The storm didn't start with the discovery of Celeste's body. It began afterward, in the noise of rumors, theories, and viral speculation. When police confirmed that 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez had been found in the trunk of David's Tesla, the shock hit instantly. But in today's digital world, news doesn't just spread, it mutates. Within hours, whispers of a pregnancy began bouncing across X, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube. At first, most dismissed it as online gossip. Then came the so-called receipts. Anonymous accounts posted screenshots claiming Celeste had told friends she might be pregnant, even suggesting David was involved. Fan forums lit up, and soon people treated rumor like fact. David's dead girlfriend was carrying his child. Except she wasn't. The earliest version of the pregnancy claim surfaced right after Celeste's identity was confirmed on September 17, 2025. Fake chat logs appeared online, supposedly showing Celeste confiding in friends. But investigators later said those screenshots couldn't be verified, and the account linked to David mysteriously vanished. With no way to prove anything, the evidence collapsed. Still, the rumor had already taken on a life of its own. Fuel only kept adding to the fire. Both Celeste and David shared a tiny tattoo, SH, inked on their right index fingers. Online sleuths claimed it was a secret symbol of a forbidden relationship, maybe even tied to the pregnancy. Others went further, spreading the wild idea that infant remains had been found near David's Hollywood Hills home. Fans dug into his catalog for clues. They pointed to Romantic Homicide with its lyrics about killing a lover, One More Dance with its imagery of a body dragged into a trunk, and even a leaked 2023 demo literally titled Celeste. In it, David sang about a girl named Celeste, describing her voice, her scent, and his obsession with her. Combined with the pregnancy rumor, these details became the backbone of a chilling theory that David silenced Celeste because of the baby. The truth didn't surface until nearly 3 weeks later. On September 29, 2025, the LA County Medical Examiner released Celeste's death certificate. The cause of death remained undetermined pending toxicology, but one line stood out: Celeste was not pregnant. Despite her body being badly decomposed, there was enough medical evidence to confirm it. The next day, a YouTube video titled "FBI Finally Reveals David Didn't Kill Her After Raiding His Car" went viral, even though the FBI hadn't released anything of the sort. The case was being handled by the LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division, not federal agents. Still, the phrase "FBI reveals David's girlfriend was not pregnant" spread like wildfire, repeated as if it were an official statement. Coffin Daffer, a retired FBI agent often consulted on high-profile cases, posted online that there was zero evidence of pregnancy and that the entire theory had been built on unverified claims. Fact-checkers amplified her words, but by then the conspiracy had already outrun the truth. For weeks, fans had tied their grief and outrage to the idea that Celeste was pregnant. The rumor gave the story a motive, a dark narrative that made sense of the senseless. So when the medical examiner shut it down, the backlash was intense. Some felt duped. Others accused the media of spreading lies. And a stubborn few doubled down, insisting it was all a cover-up. But without the pregnancy theory, the story only grew murkier. If Celeste wasn't pregnant, why was she in David's car? How had she died? Why had her body gone unnoticed for so long? The gap left by those unanswered questions quickly filled with more speculation. And that's the reality of this case. It hasn't just unfolded in morgues or police reports, but on TikTok feeds, Reddit threads, and YouTube thumbnails. A single fake screenshot could spark days of debate. A video with FBI reveal in bold letters could rake in millions of views. Meanwhile, the truth released quietly in an official document never went half as viral. This is the ecosystem of modern tragedy. In a world where algorithms reward shock value, the rumors always run faster than the facts. In stories like this, fiction often feels stronger than fact because fiction gives people the sense of closure that reality rarely does. So why did the pregnancy rumor stick for so long? For many, it was because the idea fit too neatly. Celeste was only 15. David was 20. The possibility of pregnancy didn't just suggest a relationship, it suggested something darker, an image of grooming turned into scandal. The details seemed to fuel the fire. Their matching SH tattoos looked like secret proof of intimacy. The leaked demo Celeste, unfinished, with lyrics using her name, felt damning. And then there were alleged sightings of David near her neighborhood before she vanished. To the internet, it didn't matter that the pregnancy claim was debunked. It had already cemented itself as part of the story. For weeks, that one rumor shifted everything. What should have been a tragic case of a missing girl became a viral tale of cover-ups, forbidden love, and scandal. And that's the cruel irony. Sometimes a false narrative carries more power than the truth. Because people don't always share facts, they share feelings. And few feelings are stronger than outrage over a secret relationship cut short by death. By early October 2025, the official record was clear. Celeste was not pregnant. Her cause of death was still pending toxicology, and David had stayed almost completely silent. He canceled his tour, moved out of his Hollywood Hills home, and disappeared from social media. To fans, his silence felt like guilt. To critics, it felt like hiding. And to Celeste's family, it felt like insult on top of tragedy. The questions only grew sharper. If she wasn't pregnant, why did she die? If David wasn't responsible, why was her body in his car? The LAPD wasn't calling it homicide or even an accident. They labeled it a death investigation. That vague phrase kept the public in suspense. It was now unraveling into something larger, a storm that threatened David's career, reputation, and the very trust fans place in celebrity culture. Celeste's death wasn't just a personal loss. It exposed something far bigger, the dangerous overlap of fame, youth, and unchecked power. David's downfall didn't come from a judge or a jury, it came from the world around him. Once the LAPD raided his home, the dominoes began to fall. Shows were pulled from ticket sites one after another: Seattle, San Francisco's Warfield, Berkeley's Greek Theater. Even the European leg of his We World tour was canceled. Promoters scrambled to issue refunds, and the financial blow ran into the millions. But the money wasn't the only loss. The cancellations were a message. The music industry had stopped believing in him. The reaction from fans was even louder. On X, hashtags like #JusticeForCeleste went viral. Some former supporters posted videos smashing his records and burning merch. Others dissected his lyrics on TikTok, drawing eerie connections to Celeste's death. At the same time, loyalists defended him, arguing no charges had been filed and pointing to Celeste's use of fake IDs. The online war grew toxic, with accusations of cover-ups, conspiracy theories, and moderators deleting critical posts. Meanwhile, the music itself became part of the investigation in the public's mind. Lyrics like, "In the back of my mind, I killed you from romantic homicide," suddenly felt like a confession. The One More Dance video showed a young woman resembling Celeste and scenes of a body being shoved into a trunk, imagery that no longer looked like art, but evidence. Fans revisited old projects, noticing his recurring villainous alter ego, Itami, Japanese for pain, and wondered if his art blurred into reality. Through all of this, David remained almost completely silent. His last normal post was from April 2023, joking about imaginary girlfriends. Then, on September 29, 2025, he released a cryptic video, speaking about eternal bonds and afterlife love. Many saw it as a direct nod to Celeste. His team insisted he was grieving and cooperating with police, but he never addressed the grooming rumors, the death, or the pregnancy speculation. For many, his silence spoke louder than any denial. But the case wasn't just about David anymore, it was about the culture that allowed it to happen. Reporters questioned TikTok's weak age checks, which made it easy for underage fans to connect with stars. Critics asked whether his label or management had ignored warning signs. The situation mirrored older scandals where young girls were drawn into the orbit of fame and left unprotected. Back in Lake Elsinore, though, the story looked very different. On September 22, 2025, neighbors gathered at a vigil for Celeste. They lit candles, shared stories, and remembered her as a sweet teenager who loved books, leggings, and tube tops, just a girl with her whole future ahead of her. A GoFundMe for her funeral passed $50,000, showing how much her community wanted to honor her. As of October 2025, the facts are these: Celeste was not pregnant. Her cause of death is still undetermined, with toxicology results pending. No one has been arrested. David hasn't been charged. But in the court of public opinion, the verdict has already been decided. This story is bigger than one artist or one rumor. It's about how easily fame, power, and unchecked access can collide, with devastating consequences for the young and vulnerable.